You've been lied to since the moment you took your first breath. An elaborate, lifelong deception has been woven around your very soul, and the architect of this grand illusion is closer than you could ever imagine. It isn't some external force or shadowy cabal. The most convincing liar you will ever know is the voice inside your own head, the intricate, beautiful, and profoundly deceitful machinery of your own brain. Every sight, every sound, every feeling you've ever had has been filtered through its elaborate web. Right now, as you listen to these words, a profound awakening is stirring within you, a divine signal that it is time to see beyond the veil. If you feel this resonance, this sudden chill of truth, know that you are not alone. This is a sign that your higher self is ready to reclaim its sovereignty. Acknowledge this moment by affirming your awakening in the comments below with a simple, "I am ready," and join a collective of souls who are choosing to see, for the very first time, what is truly real. Like and subscribe to continue this sacred journey of peeling back the layers of illusion and stepping into the magnificent truth of who you are. Do you truly believe you perceive reality? Do you hold your thoughts as immutable truths, your feelings as undeniable facts? I am here to tell you that this very moment, as your eyes scan these words and your mind processes their meaning, your brain is engaged in a constant, unceasing act of fiction. This isn't a rare occurrence, not a momentary lapse in judgment. It is the fundamental operating system of your human experience. Every single memory you cherish, every recollection you trust as a cornerstone of your identity, has been meticulously edited, recut, and remastered countless times. Every perception you have of the world around you is not a clear window, but a lens, ground, and polished by your past, your fears, and your deepest desires. Every decision you believe you make with free will is subtly, powerfully influenced by invisible currents, by ancient programming and subconscious forces you cannot see or name. You are not living in reality. You are living inside a story your brain is telling you about reality. And that story, my friend, is a masterpiece of deception, a tapestry woven with the most beautiful and heartbreaking lies. Think of the sharp sting of anger you felt this morning. Was it truly about the spilled coffee? Or was it a story your brain invented, a narrative of disrespect and disregard that it layered upon a simple, neutral event? That was a lie. Consider the feeling of rejection you perceived yesterday, the subtle shift in a friend's tone that your mind amplified into a tale of abandonment. That was a fabrication. And the most profound certainty you hold, the unshakable belief you have about the very nature of who you are, your strengths, your weaknesses, your limits, that, dear soul, is the grandest fiction of all. You are not a passive observer of truth, a simple receiver of objective data. You are an unreliable narrator, living and breathing inside a sophisticated propaganda machine of your own making, a machine designed for one primary purpose: to keep its main character, you, feeling consistent and safe. And the most dangerous, most insidious part of this entire mechanism, you believe every single word of it. The great spiritual psychologist Carl Jung understood this with a clarity that was both devastating and liberating. He pierced through the veil of the psyche and saw the human mind for what it truly is, not a truth-seeking instrument, but a meaning-making machine. Imagine a vast, relentless factory operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, deep within your consciousness. This factory doesn't produce goods, it produces narratives. It takes the raw materials of existence, the fragmented data from your senses, the fleeting whispers of sensation, the delicate threads of memory, and it spins them, weaves them, and constructs them into coherent stories. It is a world builder, creating entire universes of experience from the slightest provocations. This machine gives a reason for every random event, a motive for every person's action, a meaning for every suffering. Its singular goal is to create a predictable, understandable world, even if that world is a complete illusion. Jung's wisdom reveals a startling truth. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. He wasn't just offering a clever psychological trick. He was pointing to the very engine of this narrative machine, the mechanism of projection. That intense irritation you feel toward a colleague's arrogance, that judgment you cast upon a stranger's choice, that feeling is not about them. It is about the story your brain is telling you about them. It is the projection of your own unacknowledged shadow, your own disowned parts, cast onto the blank screen of another human being. You are not seeing them. You are seeing a character in your own internal drama, a character your brain cast in that role the moment they walked on stage. Tonight, I will guide you through the 5 sacred gateways of awareness, the 5 primary ways this inner narrator deceives you every single day. We will expose the cognitive traps that turn reality into fiction and the mental mechanisms that transform truth into a comfortable, self-serving delusion. But more than that, I will give you the key that Jung discovered, the divine antidote to your own unreliability. I will show you the path to catch your brain in its lies, the way to achieve psychological sovereignty in a mind that is constantly trying to enslave you to its stories. First, let us shatter your most cherished and sacred possession, your memories. That vivid memory of childhood trauma you are certain happened exactly as you recall it. That argument from last week where you were unequivocally right and they were completely wrong. Your brain has been the diligent, tireless editor of these films for years. It adds details that were never there to make the story more compelling. It removes inconvenient truths that disrupt the emotional tone it wants to create. It subtly changes the lighting, the dialogue, and the motivations to align with the current story it's telling about who you are today. Jung saw this in his work with patients time and time again. The same event, recalled at different points in their lives, would morph into entirely different stories. This wasn't because they were consciously lying. It was because memory is not a recording, it is a reconstruction. Every single time you remember something, you are not accessing a pristine data file. You are actively rebuilding the experience from scratch, and with each rebuilding, you infuse it with your present emotions, your current beliefs, your today self. The memory becomes a living document, constantly being revised to support the protagonist's journey. Your brain simplifies the narrative, making you the hero and them the villain, erasing the parts where you contributed to the conflict and enhancing the parts where you were victimized. This is not a weakness. It is a feature of the brain's engineering. Its primary directive is not to store accurate data, but to create a coherent narrative that ensures your survival. And sometimes, survival means rewriting history to cast yourself in the most favorable light. Now, think about your most painful memory, the one that feels like a brand upon your soul, the one that defines you, the story you have told yourself about it 1,000 times. Now, realize with a shock of divine awareness that this memory has also been edited 1,000 times. With each telling, with each recall, the edges that don't fit the narrative of your victimhood or your resilience have been smoothed away. The details that might suggest a different meaning have been subtly erased. The emphasis has been shifted to serve your current identity. You are not remembering what happened. You are remembering the last time you remembered it. It is a copy of a copy of a copy, degrading and transforming with each iteration. This is the reason why siblings can remember the exact same childhood in completely different ways, why witnesses to the same crime give contradictory testimonies, why your ex-partner tells a version of your relationship that sounds like pure science fiction to you. Nobody is necessarily lying. Everyone's brain is simply doing what brains do, relentlessly creating and believing the stories that best serve their internal world. But this is where the process becomes truly dangerous, where the illusion solidifies into a prison. Your brain doesn't just lie about the past, it actively hallucinates the present. Right now, you are not seeing what is truly in front of you. You are seeing what your brain expects to be there, what it needs to be there to confirm the story it's already telling. Jung called this relentless process projection, but it is more insidious than even he might have imagined. When you meet a new person, you do not meet them. You meet your brain's instantly generated story about them, a character sketch created in milliseconds based on a micro-expression that reminds you of your father, a tone of voice that echoes your first love, or a gesture that triggers a long-forgotten fear. Before your conscious mind even has a chance to engage, your brain has already written their character, assigned their role, and decided whether they are friend or foe, opportunity or threat, love or danger. And then, the most sinister part. Your brain filters all subsequent information about that person through this initial fictional lens. If they smile, and your brain has labeled them as safe, you see warmth. If your brain has labeled them as a threat, you see manipulation. If they are quiet, and your brain likes them, you see a thoughtful soul. If it doesn't, you see someone who is plotting. The same behavior is interpreted through two completely different stories, all depending on the initial, unconscious narrative your brain assigned. This is precisely why you cannot trust your gut feelings about people. Your gut isn't feeling them, it is feeling your brain's story about them. Your intuition in most cases is not some mystical wisdom. It is a rapid, pattern-matching system based on incomplete data and emotional residue from your past. The deepest, most profound lie of all is the story your brain tells you about who you are. You believe you have a solid, stable identity, a core self, a collection of essential qualities that make you, you. But Jung knew better. He saw that what you call self is just another story. The ego, the I you so fiercely defend, is simply another character in the narrative, a protagonist your brain has been developing since childhood. It's a character it keeps consistent through selective memory, convenient forgetting, and constant narrative revision. You say, "I'm not a morning person, I'm bad at math, I'm an introvert," or "I'm just not creative." These are not facts. They are plot points. They are key elements in a story your brain committed to years ago and now defends like gospel truth. Now, watch what happens when reality contradicts this identity story. You wake up energized one morning, and your brain dismisses it as a fluke, an anomaly. You solve a complex problem, and your brain attributes it to luck. You enjoy a social gathering, and your brain frames it as a rare exception. It does this because maintaining the coherence of the story matters more to it than acknowledging the truth. This is why change feels so impossible. It's not because you are incapable of changing, it's because any genuine change threatens the narrative coherence your brain values above all else. Every transformation requires your brain to admit it has been telling the wrong story, and our brains would rather we die than admit they are wrong. So, you stay stuck. Not because of who you are, but because your brain is fiercely committed to the fiction of who you've been. That pervasive anxiety you carry, it's not an inherent part of your being. It's a character trait your brain assigned to its protagonist. That depression you suffer from, it's not a foreign invasion. It's a storyline your brain keeps writing because it has become familiar, a well-worn groove in the record of your psyche. Even your most profound traumas, yes, the events were real, but the meaning you've made of them, the identity you have built around them, that is all narrative, all construction. It is your brain turning raw pain into a defining plot point. But here is the key to your freedom. You are not your story. You are the one hearing the story. You are the awareness in which the story appears. Your brain, however, doesn't want you to know this, because if you knew that, you might start telling a different one, and that possibility terrifies the narrator that has been running your life. The biggest lie is that you are in charge. You think you make conscious decisions, choose your actions, and control your thoughts. Jung understood the truth. The ego, what you call I, is just a character. Most of the time, it's not even the main character. Your vast, powerful unconscious runs the show, making decisions seconds before your conscious mind even becomes aware of them. It creates desires you think you chose. It generates thoughts you believe you're thinking, that person you're inexplicably attracted to. Your unconscious decided that based on ancient patterns and wounds you're not even aware of. Your conscious mind simply made up the reasons afterward. That career you chose. Unconscious drives and archetypal pulls picked it. Your ego just rationalized the choice. That heated argument you got into. It was a battle between unconscious complexes. Your conscious self was just the mouthpiece, providing the dialogue for a script it didn't write. You are not driving the car. You are in the passenger seat, narrating the journey, believing your narration is what's causing the movement. I am turning left. You say, as the car turns left, utterly convinced your words created the action. This is why willpower so often fails, why New Year's resolutions crumble, why you do things you swore you wouldn't and don't do things you swore you would. The narrator doesn't control the story, it just describes it after the fact. If you are beginning to feel the solid ground shifting beneath your feet, good. That is the first tremor of awakening. Recognizing these lies is the first sacred step toward what Jung called individuation, the holy process of becoming conscious of your own unconsciousness, of catching the narrator in its deceptions. Because while you can never fully stop your brain from lying, you can learn to recognize the lies, and in that divine recognition lies your only true freedom. Here is where the practice begins. The next time you feel a strong emotional reaction, a surge of anger, a wave of fear, a pang of jealousy, pause, just for a moment. In that sacred space, ask yourself, what story is my brain telling me right now? Not what is happening, but what story is my brain creating about what is happening? When someone criticizes you, before you react, catch the story. Is it, they are attacking me, or they are threatened by me, or they are trying to help me? Notice how many possible narratives exist for the same neutral event. Notice how your brain instantly and unconsciously picked one and is now defending it as absolute truth. This is what Jung called holding the tension of opposites. It is the powerful practice of not choosing a story immediately, of not collapsing into narrative certainty, but staying present in the uncomfortable, creative space of multiple possible meanings. It is deeply uncomfortable. Your brain hates it. It craves a single, clear story, good or bad, right or wrong, victim or victor. But in that discomfort of not knowing, of not choosing lies, your freedom is born. The next practice is to examine your identity stories. Take out a piece of paper and write down 10 I am statements, 10 things you deeply believe about yourself. Then, for each one, ask these questions. Where did this story come from? What evidence in my life actually contradicts it? What would happen if I stopped telling this story? You will find that most of your perceived limitations are narrative, not natural. Most of your I can'ts are actually I won'ts dressed up as impossibilities. And finally, the third practice. Start tracking your projections. When someone triggers a strong, instant reaction in you, stop. Ask, what story did my brain just write about them? What are they reminding me of? What disowned part of myself am I seeing in them? This is not about becoming passive or emotionless. It is about recognizing that your reactions are to your stories, not to reality. And if you are going to react, you might as well know what you are actually reacting to. Here is the deepest practice, the ultimate discovery that Jung's work pointed towards. It was never about stopping the lies. It was about finding the part of you that can witness them. Behind the narrator, behind the story maker, behind the meaning manufacturer, there is something else, the witnessing consciousness. The part of you that can observe your own thoughts, that can watch your brain creating stories without being swept away by them. This witness doesn't judge. It doesn't choose. It doesn't prefer one story over another. It simply sees. And when you access this witness position, something profound happens. The stories lose their absolute power. They become what they always were, mental events, narrative weather, passing through the vast sky of your consciousness. The anger is still there, but you are not consumed by it. The fear still arises, but you are not controlled by it. The stories still get told, but you are not imprisoned by them. This is what Jung called the self, with a capital S. Not the ego, not the persona, not the character in your story, but the consciousness that can witness all stories without being identified with any of them. And here's the paradox that breaks most people's minds. The more you witness your stories without believing them, the more they begin to change. Not through force, not through will, but through simple, pure awareness. The brain that knows it is being watched starts telling different stories. More nuanced ones, more truthful ones, more helpful ones. Not because you demanded it, but because consciousness itself has a transformative, alchemical power that the unconscious can never match. If you are ready to stop being a slave to your brain's fiction, if you are ready to catch the narrator in its lies, then subscribe now. Join others who are learning to witness their own stories without drowning in them. Here's what changes when you realize your brain is lying to you. You stop taking your thoughts so seriously. That relentless voice in your head saying you're not enough, just another story. That certainty that everyone is judging you, pure fiction. That conviction that you know what others are thinking, an admitted fabrication. You become curious instead of certain. When emotions arise instead of drowning, you wonder, what story is creating this feeling? When reactions explode, instead of justifying, you investigate, what narrative am I defending? You develop what Jung called a symbolic attitude, where everything becomes information about your psyche's story-making patterns rather than facts about reality. But here is what doesn't change. The stories don't stop. Your brain keeps lying. The narrative machine keeps running. What changes is your relationship to it all. You become a conscious participant rather than an unconscious victim, a co-author rather than a character, a witness rather than a prisoner. And in that shift, everything shifts. Because when you know your brain is lying, you can finally start choosing better lies, more helpful fictions, more empowering narratives. Not truth, never truth. The brain is not capable of pure truth, but more useful stories, more conscious myths, more deliberate meanings. You cannot stop being a narrator, but you can become a better one. You can't escape stories, but you can tell ones that liberate rather than limit. Your brain will lie to you until the day you die. That is not a bug, that is the feature. The question is, will you believe every lie? Or will you learn to witness the liar, smile at its creativity, and choose which fictions serve your becoming? The narrator is powerful, but the witness is free. Which one are you choosing to be right now, in this moment, as you create the meaning of these words? Are you the story, or are you the one watching it unfold? Your brain is already crafting an answer, already spinning a tale. Can you catch it in the act? Can you finally see the liar for what it is? Not your enemy, not your master, just a storytelling machine that forgot to tell you it was making everything up. Welcome to consciousness, where every story is recognized as fiction. And in that recognition, you finally find something real. The you that exists before the stories begin.